The landlord of the inn, who was standing behind the heavy, rough-hewn counter polishing his plain pewter tankards, gave a cursory glance toward the stranger who had just entered. The other customers stopped talking and watched the stranger suspiciously and surreptitiously as he passed. "Wipe your boots! I run a clean establishment!" the landlord yelled to be heard over the din. When the stranger didn't respond, he realized the place was strangely quiet. The usual low buzz of conversations had fallen silent. When the landlord looked up once more, he saw the stranger walking toward the counter, with his head slightly down, his thick-heeled boots making a distinct clopping sound on the wood-planked floor. The stranger towered over everyone present, wore black leather from head to toe, and walked with a plain oaken staff, taking 2 steps for every thud of the staff on the floor. The landlord noticed that no water dripped from the stranger's clothes, even though it had been raining all day, and his well-worn boots were spotless and highly polished instead of being mud-caked. The brim of the stranger's fedora was perfectly parallel to the floor, except for the front third, which had been turned downward, casting a shadow over his face and eyes. As the stranger walked to a table to the left of the counter, the landlord noticed the stranger looked straight ahead, never looking left, right, or at the other customers or tables. Once he reached the table he wanted, the landlord saw him lean his staff against the wall, and then heard the distinctive sound of coins hit the table as he seated himself with his back against the wall. "Welcome to the Dragon's Breath Inn," the landlord said as he cheerfully approached the table, wiping his hands on his makeshift apron. "What's your pleasure?" The stranger looked up to the landlord, his features previously shaded, now more apparent. A large, ugly scar marked the left side of his thin face, drawing a thick, jagged channel from beneath the fedora to the start of his neckline. The only visible break of the gruesome wound was the black cloth eye patch. Trying to force his eyes from the disfiguring injury, the landlord attempted to meet the stranger's gaze. The near-white shade of the pale blue iris looking back at him shocked him. The stranger's hair was black, streaked with gray, and though twisted and wrapped around his neck, the end was held by 3 rings, 2 gold and 1 silver. "Nothing," the stranger whispered in the innkeeper's own tongue. His deep basso profundo voice promised thunder if riled. "I am meeting someone." The innkeeper was shocked to hear this creature, which was definitely not a fairy, speak the fair tongue. The innkeeper frowned. He tried to be tolerant of others who lived in the 7 known planes of the Fae, but only fairies spoke the fair tongue. "You have a name?" the landlord snapped, obviously insulted. "Blackwing," the stranger replied in a deep whisper. "And keep it to yourself." He smirked. The innkeeper grasped at his heart as it pounded, and stepped back to regain his balance. Not felonious, Blackwing," he gasped quietly, his face betraying his terror. "My heart is beating so hard I know it's going to stop." "What do you know of felonious?" the stranger asked, his right eye narrowed to a slit. The innkeeper whispered, "Only that he is a dark enforcer. A Stormbringer, some would say. One of the Teet Fakin Kaisterions.